Hey, Karleen, there you are. Welcome. Hi, Joy. I see Joy up there. In the kitchen, I'm calling back the breakout rooms. Breakout rooms back in 40 seconds. Breakout rooms closing in 45 seconds. I'm going to share the screen with you. Is that all right? Yeah? Okay. We'll look cool together. All right. I'll fit it in. All right. I got Roshi in there too, and Dan front and center. We're all on point here. Yeah. Yeah, some bunny ears we get going and
Just out of camera shot.
uh-oh, Ken out of camera shot. We got some trouble brewing. Are we going this side? I don't know where everyone's sitting. Okay, welcome back. It's like summer over here almost 80 degrees, and everyone needs some tea. So we're on our way back to getting settled here. I hope everyone online has said good morning and have a nice beverage. I see Michaela out in the sunshine, looks so lovely. Good morning. Hi, Shuping. Okay. Yeah. All right. Breakout rooms are officially closed. Tea has been had, drinks, water. We're ready to carry on with the second half of our Sunday morning Zen. I want to start by saying, as always, I am so humbled by the generosity of our Sangha. I want to say thank you for all the donations this morning for our Gata Sweet Nectar service. Just amazing. Just as a reminder, all of these food donations, these non-perishables, are going over to Sarah's Inn, where they work in collaboration with ending domestic violence and supporting those who are in need. So please give and continue to give as you are able, either volunteering like opportunities we have with Day in Our Village, or you can give of donations or of Dana here in our Dana box or online. There is a tab online, and I can just put that link in the chat for us as the morning goes on. So thank you to all of you. Please continue to give as you're able. So here we go. I am so excited, and it's so wonderful to have with us this morning Karleen Manchanda, all the way from Canada. Thank you for being here. She is a mindfulness instructor here at the center since 2021 and has studied and practiced mindfulness meditation and yoga for the past 10 years. She does have a master's in education from U of I in Champaign-Urbana, and we have some alum here, so woo, woo, woo. I got a handful of us in the room. And she is trained with the Center of Mindfulness Studies in Toronto and Little Flower Yoga in New York. Most recently, she is co-leading our mindful parenting circle, and I'm really looking forward to how that unfolds and develops together with you. So more on that to come. So please help me in welcoming Karleen. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Is the volume okay? Can you hear me all right? Yeah? Okay, great. And I'm just taking a look around the Zoom room, and I'm just going to request that other participants mute themselves, just because I know sometimes it's not pleasant to suddenly see your face jump on the screen as the highlighter speaker. So thank you so much. Thank you for having me. My name, as Kelly mentioned, is Karleen Manchanda, in case I haven't met you. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a fourth generation Japanese American, born on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, and moved to Illinois at the age of 12 with my family. And my husband and I settled in Canada in 1997, where we have lived since then. And as much for myself as for all of you, I'd like to start with just a bit of reflection around a few lines of intention. So you can just sit comfortably, and if you'd like, you could close your eyes, and I'm just going to read 4 lines, which you can let, either wash over you or through you, or you can even silently say them to yourself after I say them. May I dwell in an open heart. May I attend to whatever clouds the heart. May I be awake in this moment, just as it is. May this awakened heart be extended to all beings. And in the spirit of an awakened heart, I wish to acknowledge that I make my home on Treaty 1 territory, the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. May this acknowledgement serve as an invitation to be curious about the history of the land that you call home. And I would encourage you to visit the website, nativeland.ca, to learn more. The title of my talk today is The Plunge of Parenthood, Falling Down and Waking Up with My Children. And I was kind of laughing with my husband as an alternate name that we thought it could be is, Parenthood, no money back, suffering guaranteed. But we went with, or I went with a little more elegant one. My partner in plunging is my husband, Rajesh, and he is a professor at the business school here at the University of Manitoba. We have 2 children, a daughter who's 18 and just started her first year at university, and a son who's 20, who's just starting out his career as an auto body technician. And my children really are the primary reason that I began to practice mindfulness and yoga, meditation, and Zen studies. While my formal teacher is Jun Roshi, my everyday Zen masters are my children. Bernie Glassman, who was the co-founder of the Zen Peacemakers, described session, which if you're not yet familiar is the Zen meditation retreat, as an experience designed to overpower us, to get us out of our comfort zone, to tire us and wear us out in order to unravel our attachments to ourselves. And I think this description actually is quite fitting for parenthood. Those of us who are parents or grandparents can probably relate to some of these feelings of being overpowered, out of our comfort zone, and exhausted as parents. And during session, there may be moments, of insight and peace and joy as well, just like in parenthood. But with this talk, I'm focusing more on the places of discomfort and the unfamiliar, because I think that the places of questioning and fear are really the fertile ground for growth and transformation. So, a plunge, this term I've taken from the Zen Peacemakers, who offer plunges such as street retreats among the homeless, and bearing witness retreats at places like Auschwitz. These retreats are also designed to allow you to enter a place of your fears, of the unknown. And my children have offered me numerous plunges into places of fear and groundlessness. The difference is, I think, that the plunges with my kids often came unexpectedly and without carefully planned guidelines and support. But there are plunges nonetheless. And I saw a lovely quote from Sumi London Kim, who's a Buddhist chaplain and a mother. And in a Lions Roar article, she wrote, "Anything that turns a competent adult into a puddle of tears and snot tends to be good for awakening." And so in this spirit, I will share a few of these plunges with you. And in doing this, before I started this talk, all through the second half of the meditation, I could feel my heart sort of pounding. Almost it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest, because this talk brings me to a very personal and tender and vulnerable place that addresses some difficult topics. So with that in mind, I also wanted to see if, invite you to approach listening to this talk using the 3 tenets of the Zen Peacemakers as a way of opening to a plunge with me here today. The 3 tenets, the first is not knowing, which is letting go of your fixed ideas and maintaining an open mind and heart. To bear witness, both to joy and suffering, and to what you hear, what you think, and what you feel. And then loving action, to trust what arises, to know how best to care for yourself. So as we move through this talk, just see if you can hold these things with a lot of compassion, just not knowing, letting go, being a witness, and then trusting that whatever arises, that you can take what steps you need to make sure that you feel safe and cared for. So the first plunge I'll address, the plunge into not knowing, really. The story of my plunge into parenthood begins with what I thought I knew. I thought I knew how I would become a mother. I would carry a growing child inside of my body and give birth to them. What actually happened is that I carried a stranger's child inside of my heart and traveled to India to adopt them. So instead of bringing my children, both of whom are adopted, home from the hospital to nest in familiar surroundings, for our son, I lived my first 4 months as a new mother in my husband's childhood home in a city that would become more familiar of Bombay. And yes, he insists on calling it Bombay, not Mumbai. The pain of disappointment, the grief at the loss of the experience of pregnancy and giving birth, the fear of the unknown elements of nurturing. This plunge sort of immersed me in feelings of grief, of fear, and doubt, as well as joy and excitement. Over time, what I found with this particular plunge is that the grief that I felt at the loss of a child that I would never carry has actually connected me to the grief of a birth mother who will never see their child grow up. So her child is my child, and my child is hers. And though we have never met, we are connected. There's no separation. The plunge into radical acceptance. Mother and author Katrina Kennison writes this in a blog that she wrote several years ago, many years ago actually now, but very pertinent. She says, let go of the ways you thought life and parenthood would unfold. Let go of your plans and dreams and expectations for your child. Let it all go. Save your strength for learning to swim with the tide. The choice to fight is what will result only in more struggle and distance. You can't change your child, or anyone else for that matter, but you can change yourself. So our children were diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, in junior high and high school. And they managed through elementary school because we believe because they were cheerful and likable and not too much trouble in the classroom. Their struggles were viewed as developmental at that point. And really it's at the point of junior high when the academic demands of school began to increase that kind of revealed to the teachers and to us that there was more to investigate. And so with this diagnosis, you know, I think any parent doesn't wish for any kind of diagnosis for their child. You know, we hope for healthy and thriving kids. And of course, the caveat to that is our children have ADHD and they're healthy and thriving. Both can be true. But we plunged into ADHD with a great deal of fear about how this diagnosis would affect the children, not just in school, but in their lives as they matured. More commonly, you know, signs of ADHD are inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. Although sort of overt hyperactivity isn't actually as common in the diagnosis population as one might think. But I think what's less known and what we've found to be in some ways more challenging with significant impact on sort of your day-to-day living are other aspects of this condition. And I'm just going to name two of them. One is that with ADHD, a person who has ADHD has what they call an interest-based nervous system. So to clarify, I think it's helpful to explain that this diagnosis is not actually really a deficit of attention, but it is more accurately described as an inconsistent attention. And it's primarily activated by interest. Things like novelty, competition, or, you know, really extreme urgency could also do it. But interest is the really key motivator for people who have ADHD. Importance of an activity or the priority of an activity does not tend to activate attention. So, you know, you can imagine that this can be a challenge. If there's something that's very important to complete, but it's not interesting, it decreases the chances, the likelihood that that thing is actually going to get done, even though that person may know it's important and they may know it's a priority, but because it doesn't activate their attention, it may not happen. And, you know, in terms of looking for ways to motivate people with ADHD, importance and traditional kind of the rewards and consequences model are not particularly effective because those things don't necessarily activate their interest. You know, our son in junior high was when this first happened, where he'd complete assignments for school, but he would forget to turn them in. And before we understood ADHD, we thought that he was just, you know, being irresponsible, that, you know, he needed to sort of get his act together, and gave him, unfortunately, a lot of negative messaging around a behavior that was actually due to his neurology, you know, the way that his mind focused its attention. And, you know, as sort of evidence of the interest-based one, he also barely passed high school, but he went to community college to study auto body, and he has been a car fanatic since the time that he could hold a little car in his hand. He's been a wheel and car guy, and at community college, he, you know, got mostly A's and B's in his courses because these classes were of interest. They were relevant to him. And the other one I'll point out that can be particularly challenging in relationships with people who have ADHD is what they call emotional hyperarousal. So these are, and you may say, well, this is just young adults and teenagers, Karleen, they're all emotional. But I think there is a greater intensity and frequency of the kinds of thoughts and emotions that an average person might experience. And it could be happening on an even more frequent basis on the inside, but often it will also get expressed outwardly. Both happiness and criticism are felt much more powerfully. And characteristic is, tends to be triggered by events or perceptions of what is happening, and then they resolve quickly. But there can be a lot of shame around the reactions they have to things, and how the other person will respond to them because of it, and just feeling different, a little out of step with everyone around them. And in our household, even at 18 and 20 years old, there is sometimes fairly extreme emotional dysregulation on a daily basis, typically at least once or a few times in a day. One or the other child, or both feeding off of each other, will be in a really heightened emotional state that's out of proportion, to what the situation is. And so this makes this particular plunge very difficult as a parent, because even with the understanding of why this happens, you're trying to navigate also, well, what are the ways we can help them live with this and be able to, to function with people around them who may not have this kind of neurology and who may not understand why this is happening. So at this stage, both were diagnosed fairly late. And so both of our children chose not to take medications. We don't know if that would be helpful or not. One of our children self-medicates with marijuana use, and both tend to blame others for difficult or big feelings because they have a hard time managing it, and I think can sometimes feel badly about that. And so they kind of externalize that. And often, it can be like mom or dad as a punching bag when we're feeling badly. So expecting the kids to change simply for reasons that I believe important, is actually what I've come to believe is that it's actually unreasonable, especially with ADHD. Like, can I radically accept them just as they are from moment to moment? And this is a continuing challenge. Fred Luskin, who is the director of the Stanford University Forgiveness Projects, he had a quote that really struck me in one of his talks. And he said, the only thing we can trust other people to do is act like themselves. He holds that it's pretty unreasonable, actually, to expect people to act like somebody other than themselves. And so my practice has been, and not very successfully sometimes, but it is a practice with mindfulness, to notice when I'm blaming my unhappiness or my difficult feelings on their choices or behavior, which they control, and to try to shift the attention to examining my own response, and setting boundaries and getting clear on what my expectations are. Those things I can control. My conditioned response, since I was very young, to any kind of challenging, behavior, difficult things that make me feel uncomfortable. In this case, it's that my kids, what behaviors they exhibit is basically my fault, right? I blame myself, and that makes me judge myself as a bad parent. And then I can even go that really unhelpful step further and say that I'm a bad person. So the question then becomes, through this plunge, can I radically accept myself in those moments and offer my fear of not being good enough a great deal of compassion? So remembering to see the Buddha within, to remembering to acknowledge the what Father Greg Boyle calls the unshakable goodness within everyone, including my children, requires that I can see this in myself first. This ability is something that has grown stronger through plunging. The plunge into pain. I'll share a poem that I wrote. Scars. Now we both have scars, my child and I, in similar places. They are noticeable when we turn our palms up. They run lengthwise on the soft underside of one forearm. Mine is a few years old and a few inches long, made precisely by a surgeon's scalpel. Theirs is a few days old, 3 long, shallow marks made by the dull blade of a pair of grooming scissors in the upstairs bathroom. They did not want to show me at first, but I insisted, because I have learned that we must look at our wounds to heal them. We must touch them with love to heal them. I wrote this poem in March, just a few days after one of our children ended an emotionally and financially abusive relationship. It was their first romantic relationship, their first love. The physical and emotional toll on their body was great. They had not been sleeping or eating enough, and the pain of realizing that the person they loved was not loving, but cruel in return, was too much to bear. Not knowing what to do with their suffering, they harmed themselves. Thankfully, the physical injury was not life-threatening, but the life within was altered. They are recovering well, but changed. In the past 3.5 years, one of our children has worked through recovery from anorexia, diagnosed just before the COVID pandemic began, as well as sexual assault in an unhealthy relationship. Both situations seem to grow from a need to be accepted. This child has always wanted to be independent. So accepting help for these plunges was not easy for them, but they have shown amazing resilience. And yes, they are also changed. The plunge into pain in each of these events has been intense. As a parent, the desire to ease the suffering of my child, the need to keep them safe, is instinctual. Their wound is our wound, but there is no quick fix for these kinds of wounds. Anne Lamott, who is a well-known author and a mother herself, writes, horribly, when all you want is relief from the pain, you instead need to tune into it, right into the lonely clench. We must look at our wounds to heal them. We must touch them with love. And I believe that with kind and caring attention, that the loss of trust may someday transform into knowing our needs and boundaries. The desire for a different body may evolve into a greater self-love. And the feeling of a broken heart may help us to recognize the broken heart in another. Through the fears and many tears of these experiences, my own heart has been broken open. While there is anger towards the action of those who harmed my children, there is also a deep recognition of their woundedness and the sorrows this causes their families. And there is also an understanding that I too have harmed others knowingly and unknowingly while walking my path. At certain points while plunging, I was aware that I believed that our family struggles were bigger and harder than others. I mistakenly thought that because their experiences were different than mine, their suffering was different. I realize now that at a deep and human level, beyond how we categorize and cage ourselves, all suffering is the same. It arises when pain overtakes us, and we forget that it is not permanent. We resist it, we hide it, we run from it, we scream at it, when all it asks of us is loving attention and care. We are never alone when we suffer because it is a universal experience that connects us all. And one way of working with the suffering, this kind of suffering that has helped me a great deal, is through the Tibetan practice of plunging, which is translated roughly into sending and receiving. And I am not, by any means, I've not been trained formally in this practice, and mine would probably be more accurately described as on-the-spot Tonglen. But I would like to invite you to try a simple version of it with me right now. So if you're comfortable, you can just sit, in meditation or a relaxed posture, and just bring an awareness to how Tonglen practice is meant to cultivate compassion and our ability, meant to nurture our ability to stay open and present for suffering, both our own and the suffering of others. And the general idea is that when we breathe in the pain or the suffering, which is counterintuitive to what our tendencies are, which is to push away, right? So when we breathe in the suffering, and when we exhale, we breathe out sort of the antidote to that suffering, which could be, it could be love, it could be compassion or spaciousness, or whatever remedy might seem appropriate at that time. So we'll just do a very simple version, particularly in light of some of the stories that I've just shared. And if this is not comfortable at any time, then please feel free to take a break or just to sit quietly with your own intention. But gently, if you can, close your eyes, or you can softly gaze at a point on the floor. And let your body and mind settle. And start to tune in to your breath. And just notice that the natural act of breathing, when you breathe in, you receive. And when you breathe out, you let go. Without any effort, that's what we do over and over and over in a day. And before sort of bringing a situation to mind, I'll just say a few lines of intention. May I be awake in this moment to benefit all beings. May I send all my virtues and happiness to others through my loving practice. And may I receive the suffering and obstacles of all beings. And just begin by recalling a difficult situation, not something that's overwhelmingly difficult. And breathe in whatever you're feeling about that difficult situation. It might be fear, anger, resistance. With each inhale, you breathe it in. And on the exhalation, you breathe out well-being, peace, ease, joy, love. And each time, bring awareness to your suffering and breathe it in, accept it with kindness. And as you exhale, breathe out spaciousness and well-being. Inhale, receiving the suffering. And exhale, breathing out love. Just continue this for a few more breath cycles. And now, just returning to a natural breath and letting go of the focus. And you can gently blink your eyes open and come back to our group. Now I can't on my screen see anyone, so I hope that practice was nourishing for you, or all right for you. And I would love to hear some thoughts after the talk. I can say, I never imagined that my life as a parent would so often literally bring me to my knees. The downstairs bathroom carpet probably has my knee prints in it. And that it would require so much determination and perseverance, and resilience. And, practices like Tonglen, the practice of Maitri or loving kindness, on these plunges of pain, these are the kinds of things that have helped me to be able to bear witness more skillfully, to turn towards the pain and stay open. And certainly, gratitude and the sense of humor is also useful. One support that I wish that I had was actually a community of people who also viewed parenting as practice. And so I'm going to, take a little moment to really celebrate that we have this mindful parenting circle starting. I'm absolutely honored to be co-stewarding with Kelly and Kathy, and we really hope that whether it's to explore plunges or celebrate, celebrate progress or anything, that comes up in that circle, it would be wonderful to see those of you who are caring for children of any age. We hope that you'll be able to join us on Tuesday night. So as I get ready to close this talk, I have to say that the privilege of parenthood is bearing witness not only to the fullness of our children's lives, but to the wholeness of our own life as well. And again, I'll use something from Sumiland and Kim. She wrote that the intimacy of this relationship with our children often reveals our most vulnerable, immature, and wounded places. We get exposed whether we like it or not. And as a parent, I can say that, you know, my concept of self or who I am has been unraveled from the relentless plunges on my path. I'm the patient nurturer singing lullabies to her kids at night, and the sleep-deprived taxi driver yelling at her kids to get in the car for school. I'm the calm witness to a screaming teenager, and the frightened guardian who feels like she failed to protect her child from harm. I'm the party planner, decorating cakes for birthday parties, and the exhausted homemaker who struggles to make meals and clean the house. There really is no solid, permanent self to protect. I'm actually free to be just as I am in the moment, with my laughter, my tears, my aspirations, and imperfections. In the beginning, I practiced to be a better parent, but now I believe that being a parent also helps me to be a better practitioner. Our Sangha offers so many opportunities to delight in the Dharma that is taught. And Parenthood has offered me an immersion in the Dharma that is experienced. Being able to share my experiences with you has helped me to realize the truth that there is no separation between our Zen practice and everyday life. And I'm truly grateful for your open attentiveness. And I wish to leave you with a few verses of Wendy Eigoku Nakao's blessing. Let us vow to remember the causes of suffering and to practice an end to suffering. I shall accept all that I cannot change, and let my heart be broken. May we be gentle for all our days, here, there, and everywhere. Let us vow to bear witness to the wholeness of life, realizing the completeness of each and everything. I shall know myself as you, and you as myself. May we serve each other for all our days, here, there, and everywhere. Thank you so much. And I would love to hear your thoughts or questions. I think we have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me here? Yeah, we do.
Yes.
We do have a few minutes here. Thank you so much. Those of you who are online can just hop off of Zoom. Those in person here can give me the nod. I'll pass you the microphone. Robin, go ahead.
Karleen, thank you so much. It was such a generous, wonderful talk. And I'm deeply moved by you and by the things you've talked about. And I have not given birth to children myself, but I have stepsons and I have nephews and a niece and friends. So much of what you talked about just applied to so many situations in my own life. So thank you for your vulnerability and your generosity.
Thank you, Robin.
You're here? Michaela, you can go ahead.
Hi, I think that may have been me who unintentionally unmuted earlier, and I don't know how Zoom did it, but without touching. But anyway, sorry about that. But anyway, I appreciate that you brought up ADHD because that's something I recently discovered in myself, and it was just there isn't a lot of awareness there of what it actually is, and I do have a child who has some challenges, and I like all the stuff about like how like Dharma with like having those things going on. So anyway, yeah, I found this all really relevant. So thank you.
I'm so glad. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to thank you for such a vulnerable talk. It allowed me to open myself up and also be vulnerable. When I first heard that this Dharma talk would be about parenting, I was like, well, I'm not a parent. How is that going to relate to me? But I actually got so much out of this, and it kind of, it allowed me to look at my relationship with my parents in a different way than I had before. Because when you look at your parents, you think they're raising you, they're doing what they're supposed to do. You don't think about the fact that when you're suffering, they're also suffering. And I recently went through a really rough time where I went through a breakup and a job loss all at once. It was just a whole mess. And I was staying with my parents for a while, and my dad looked at me, and I was a mess. And he said, "You're not suffering alone. When you suffer, I suffer." And this brought me back to that, and it really strengthened that relationship. And now I have to call my dad when I leave here. So thank you
That's
so much.
so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Leela.
Thank you, Karleen. That was just so heartfelt and so brave to share all of those experiences that you had, but so helpful, I know, to many parents who are going through the same hardships. So thank you very much for that, for your talk and your practice.
Thank you, Roshi.
Thank you, Karleen. I know your talk really resonated with me. I know we've had conversations around parenting as we're working on our parenting circle, but it's just so wonderful to have other parents be able to bring their authentic selves and speak honestly about the intimacy and how really messy child raising and all of this really is. I feel like with social media, I feel like we're so pushed now to be like, everything's amazing, I'm amazing, my children are amazing. And, it really starts to create shame for some people when you no longer hear about like, this is also part of it too. So I just so appreciate what you brought for us today. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, Karleen, I just wanted to thank you. And also, one of the things you mentioned was that, suffering brings us all together. And that is one of the common things that has always existed in human beings, is that we all suffer. And I don't know, that we really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
It is the common thread for everyone. We all suffer. And I just thought that was quite enlightening for me. I go to sporting events, and I see them I watch them on television, and sporting events are both, they go from joy to suffering, joy to suffering. It's kind of like, which side of the hand is it? There's
Yeah.
joy, ooh, but then there's suffering. And it's like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, two sides of the same coin almost, aren't they?
Exactly, exactly. So without joy, is there suffering?
Mhm.
Or without suffering, is there joy? Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Earl. Yeah, I wanted to mention too that before, writing this talk, I spoke with my children and got their permission, to share these things because it's really their stories. And uh, they were quite eager for me to share it. And I don't know if I fully understand the reasoning for it, but I do know that, particularly our one child who's had more time to process some of the things that they've been through. They realize that they have grown and learned quite a bit. So I think, and they do know the value in hearing a story that from someone else that, is similar to your own. So yeah, I truly appreciate the safety and the love of this group for me to feel courageous enough to talk about all of this. I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you, Karleen. I just want to say, yeah, I'm on the same boat, but probably less. Yeah. So, but anyway, I think your talk is so important on parenting, because I think a lot of people thought once you get married, once you have a child or children, you automatically know how to do it. So we always have that wonderful ideas how to, but like you just toss through is like a lot of time actually we really don't know what to do, and especially your kids were not that angel one.
Right.
They always say the angel one bring you the hope, so you won't have another one. But the challenge one actually is the one who really help us to grow. And but like you say, when we will be able to take care of ourselves, to provide that love, I think they do understand. So I was guessing when you say your kids give you a permission, actually probably is the way they say, Mom, we love you, we want you to be happy, right? Thank you for your talk.
I think that could be. Thank you, Shafin.
I have a few more comments in the room here.
Hi, I just wanted to really recognize and appreciate the work that you're doing for your children. I recently lost a parent who was very abusive. And so, I'm sure I'm not a parent, so I'm sure you beat yourself up all the time for everything, especially when your children are suffering. But, you're moving mountains for them just being there. And it's just very, healing to witness. And also very strangely and ironically, I've made documentaries about eating disorders and self-injury. If you're interested, I could send you links for those. But yeah, so those are very, very dear to my heart. But I just, I think even just the intention to be there through all of that, be there for, for your own suffering and everything that it triggers for you, and being with it instead of fighting it and, sort of digging your heels in and everything. There's so many ways to actively and passively harm children. And, it seems like you in this community are really doing, really trying to do the opposite of that and be really proactive. And I just think that's really powerful. So.
I really appreciate that. And yes, I would love to have those links.
Just a short comment. Excuse me. I wish that this course were available when I was a parent with children. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I feel so much gratitude in the trust that you have with the Sangha and being, willing to share your story. And it was so powerful, and really touched my heart and resonated with so many, with, just the suffering with parenting. I mean, and, the universality, as Earl said, of suffering. That was also an aha moment for me as well. And, I really appreciated how you talked about, the ways in which that separation really dissolves in the practice of parenting. Yeah, and just, the ways in which bearing witness and the skills that we work on in developing those skills and bearing witness, it's so something that comes up so much, at least in my experience with parenting, that I'm really looking forward to the circle and having more of these kinds of conversations. So thank you.
Kathy.
Anyone else online or in the room here? I think we might be close to time now. All right, well, thank you so much, Karleen. Such a powerful talk. So appreciate you being here. Thank you to all of you Zoomers and here online, for here in person. For those of you who are in person, please join us for some refreshments sponsored by the Kinship Circle. Thank you all. Enjoy your Sunday. Thanks, Karleen. Great talk.
Thank you.
Bye, Robin. Bye, Earl. See you, Sandy.